the message that I have to bring is kind of a broad message in a sense. It's not that specific deal, but I really feel like there's going to be a handful, at least one or more than one, that are really going to, this is going to be something for them. It's like this is a meeting place for them this morning. So before I get into that, I just want to thank Pastor and Sandra for having us do this. I hope that they have a wonderful time in Virginia with their people. And it's a really big honor to be able to step behind this desk, this very tall, 6'7" person desk here. But yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. I had a dream back in August. And this isn't usually how this works for me. And I've talked to Seth about this before. Like, I get kind of annoyed because usually I'll get a message the day or two before a service, or sometimes the night before, or sometimes like the morning of. And that's just how it rolls with me. So don't try to take notes. I'm all over the place, and that's just how God has got it going for me. If I could have notes, I would, but I can't. So anyway, but this particular service kind of puzzled me because I felt like I had a message for a service months in advance. And so I had a dream back in August, and I was supposed to be praying. I prayed late at night, and I was supposed to be praying, but I was like, I'm gonna go lay down for a second and like take a quick nap or something, and then I'm magically gonna wake up and do the Lord's work and pray, which is the dumbest thing anybody's ever said because that never happens. And so, but such good sleep. So, to kind of make it not so obvious that I was really going to just go to sleep for the night, I laid down on top of the bed instead of like getting in it. And I'm like, this will do the trick. And it's like, still not fooling anybody. And so here I am, and I'm out just like fell into sleep, the kind of sleep where you wake up and your arms are all twisted up kind of stuff, and I fell asleep, and I was pulled out of sleep like really quick, and I got yanked out of sleep. I saw a picture, felt an impression, whatever you want to call it, I don't care, but I saw this picture in my head, and it was an old-timey clock, the rotary dial clock, and it was really cool. It was like, I don't know if it was ivory, if they had ivory at the time, but it had the little mouthpiece and the little earpiece and the bar in the middle connecting them, and it had the two hooks that you'd put it on, and it came down onto this ornate wooden base. And so it was an old-timey phone like that. But where the rotary dial was supposed to be was a clock face. And it had a specific time on it. And I don't think the time is relevant. I noted a time on this clock. So there was a clock inside of a phone. And as I came up out of sleep, got yanked. Remember, I'm supposed to be praying right now, and I'm fooling everybody. So I got yanked out of sleep and see this picture. And I could hear clear as day in my spirit, it's time to call. And I was like, which is kind of funny. Because, it was a clock inside of a phone, so it's time to call. That's the most literal translation or interpretation you can get of that picture ever. There was nothing fancy about it. It was like the Lord said, it's time to call. Here's a picture to even show it. And I'm going, oh, dang. So anyway, I was chastised, and I hopped out of bed and went into the living room and just called him. And nothing really happened at all. Nothing big happened. I just remember it's time to call. And so a week goes by, and I'm setting up, I'm laying some groundwork here. That's why I'm going on with this. So I had that dream, vision, whatever you want to call it. It's time to call. A week goes by, and I'm opening up my Bible I think I was headed to a destination, and I can't remember exactly, but where I opened it up, it just flips to a page sometimes, right? But this page stood out to me because it was kind of crinkled up, which is not good. You're supposed to take care of your Bible unless you're ripping pages out of it to make a point. And so but the thing is that this jumped out at me, and I was like, so nowadays, whenever I feel like something kind of sticks out, I kind of stay there for a minute just to check and see if the Lord's talking about it. Sometimes he is, sometimes he's not. So I'm reading on this page in my Bible, and how many of you know that everybody's Bible is different? Every edition is different. The geography of the Bible is different. So my page 1153 is not your page 1153, right? So in my particular Bible, this is the page that it opens up to, and it's wrinkled up. And so I'm not telling anybody that my stuff is wrinkled up. I'm kind of embarrassed about that. But I'm reading in the last verse on the page. That's a kind of a landmark verse. It's kind of geographically important. It's the last verse on the page. Was this verse. It says, "Sow for yourselves righteousness, reap in mercy. Break up your fallow ground, for it's time to seek the Lord till he comes and rains down righteousness on your head." On your head's not in there, but until he rains down righteousness on you. This is in Hosea, chapter 10, verse 12. And Hosea, of all places to camp out, like that's the book that you don't read because it's so hard. It's just painful to read. But then I started reading it and I'm going, oh my God, I've never heard his heart quite put like this. That's another sermon for another day. But the last verse, it said, break up your fallow ground, for it's time to seek the Lord. So in other words, it's time to call. So a week later, I get a scripture verse randomly opening up on the last part of the page there, boom, last verse. And it's actually got some bold words in it to do some definitions. And it says, it's time to seek the Lord. So now I've got, it's time to call, and it's time to call. And so I say all that to say that this message was kind of set up for me a long time ago. So I want you to just take those two things and just put them away for a second, if you can, and hang on to them for a second. And now we're going to get into the meat of it all, but that was just to set you up to know what I was thinking and feeling with this. Okay, so Hosea 10:12 is where we're at. It's time to call. I'm not an agri person. I didn't take agri in school. I'm not a farmer. I'm not the son of a farmer. Not from a farming family. I'm from down south Arkansas where there's chemical plants and no trees. Except pine trees. But I did a fair amount of research on this subject just for today. So, farmers would have an ancient practice where they would take a field. If they had a big field, they had a big plot of land, whatever it was, or multiple fields, but if they had a big field, they would plant on it, they would do all the things, they would till it up, make rows, they would, put the seed in, watch it grow, reap it up, do all the things post-harvest and all that stuff. And occasionally what they would do is they would take that plot of land, they'd cut it in half, and they'd have one part of I guess this part of the room is going to be where I'm fixating with this, but one part of the room or the field would have, it would continue to be planted, it would continue to be cultivated, it would continue to harvest. But this side, this part of the field, this half of it would be left untouched. No hand would touch it. There wouldn't be anything done to it. And so year after year, the farmer would go and they'd do the same process. They'd break up the ground, they'd make the rows, they'd plant the seed, they'd cultivate it, they'd take all the weeds out, they'd give it special amounts of water, they'd do all the things that you have to do to care and tend for the land. Everything would grow, you'd have the seedlings sprouting up and all the stuff, and then you have wheat and corn higher than your head, and then they'd come through and they'd cut it down, and then they'd take it. You have full tables, full bellies. They got bins full of stuff for the bumper crop. You got all the things that are happening. All the while over here, this side of the field is dormant. It's like wild. It's got grass growing up on it, weeds growing up on it, briars, thistles, small trees. Sometimes the farmers would let it go so much that it would be used as pasture land for cattle that would come through or sheep that would come through, whatever livestock that they had. This part of the field at one time was harvesting, but now it's just pasture land, okay? And so you got cows trampling on it, chewing up the dirt and the grass and everything, leaving their business and manure all over everything. I mean, you wouldn't do that to the field over here where you got the crops that are coming up. You don't let things come in there. You make sure that those types of things don't happen over here. But this side, you got, they said that wild animals would come in and forage. You'd have small animals coming in, chewing on stuff, and then predators would come in and take out the little ones and all that kind of stuff. So you have like the wild kingdom over here. It's like Kratt Brothers on this side, but you've got this side over here is, if you got young kids, you know what the Kratt Brothers are. So, but the thing is that this side over here is actually tended and everything is going good and everything is looking the way that it's supposed to be looking, right? But they would intentionally leave this side fallow, what they call fallow, which means that they're going to allow it to rest for a season. And to a passerby, everybody who passes by, the layperson, if they're not the farmer, they're walking by the field and they're seeing all of this stuff is happening over here. They're like, this is where progress is happening. And this is where everything is being, the favor of the farmer is apparently right here. Because I can see all the things that are happening. I can see the soil. I can see all the different things that they put up to keep the critters out. And I can see all the stuff that's happening here. We're actually eating from this side. To the passerby, whenever they walk over to that other side that's been allowed to lay fallow, they see all of the things that are growing up. All the weeds, all the nasty things, all the cows trampling, all the manure, all the smell, all the animals running around. Obviously, this side over here is not pasture or is not for farming. There's nothing good happening on this side. And on the surface, they'd be correct. But the thing is that the farmer knows that what's happening on the surface isn't necessarily what's happening underneath. Because underneath, by design, the farmer says, I'm going to take and I'm going to do on this side, but over here I need to let this rest for a minute. And that's what they would actually call it. They call it letting the land rest. And if you have any background in gardening even, you know what this is. But they would allow it to fallow. And underneath the surface, where nobody can see, there is this increase in nutrients that's happening. The nitrogen levels are increasing, the phosphorus levels are increasing, and all of this change is happening underneath the soil where nobody can see. Where the weed can't grow down, where the root can't come down, where the cows that are grazing up top can't trample, where the weight of them can't be felt. The animals that are foraging and the predators that are eating those animals, where that can't be felt. Deep below the surface, there's change happening. Nobody can see that. And that's a hard place for some people to be, myself included. But the farmer by design isn't worried about the surface of things. He's worried about what's underneath. And the neat thing is that God is not worried about our surface. God is worried about the deep of Him calling to the deep of us. He is worried about the deep things that can go on inside of a person. Because below the surface, you got a person who's behind closed doors. What's happening in private, the battles that are happening in private, in secret, where nobody can see. That's below the surface. Whenever they come out, that ministry's done. It's not got favor on it anymore. That person's family member, they've gone too far. They're off. Let's write them off. Let's fling them out of the circle. This person had a word spoken over them. It's not materializing. They're out. It doesn't make any difference to the judgmental mouthpiece that walks by. But in private, that person is at home. They're up at midnight. You're up at 4 a.m. You're at the door shut. You're calling out to God. You're saying, Lord, I know that you spoke this over me. I know that you told me that I would do X, Y, and Z. You placed a call on my life to have this type of a ministry, but I don't see it happening yet. I need to know what's going on. It's not happening. And you hear the response back from Him. It says, it isn't happening yet. And I know it's not happening yet. I know the word that was spoken over my son. But I don't see him going that direction yet. And these people are contending for more in private, because it's been said before, the battles and breakthrough that happens in private will eventually become public victory. And the thing is that nobody can see you whenever you're at home. Nobody can see you whenever you're driving in your car. Nobody can see you whenever your wheels are spinning and you can't get that traction. And you're trying day after day after day. Lord, I know you told me. I know you told me what's going on, and I trust that you will do what you said you can do, but I can't get any traction. My wheels are spinning day after day after day, and I can't get it. Where are you at? I need to know what's going on. And he says, wait just a minute. Just wait. And he's like, I am waiting, and I trust in you. I trust you in the pursuit. I trust you in the pursuit, and I know all the verses, and I know all the songs. I will keep trusting in you, but I need some help because I can't get the traction that I need. He said, just wait. And I've heard him tell me before, you just wait. Just wait. And it's like I can see him smiling whenever he says it. I'm like, Lord, but I can't see. I can't see a day ahead. But I know what you said. But I know what you said. And the thing is that this message that I had, again, it was months ago. This dream, this verse and everything, it was months ago. And it itself was allowed to lay fallow before I even was able to let it go. Usually I get it the day of. So that was my third confirmation for this. The Bible in Hosea 10:12, it says, sow for yourselves righteousness, reap in mercy. And he says, break open your fallow ground, for it's time to seek the Lord. And today is the day whenever we are coming to a place where there are people in this room. It may be one. I don't know. And again, I'm not after the name and the address right now. I'm after the fact that God said, I want you to deliver this. I'm talking to somebody. It's time to break open the fallow ground, and it's time to seek the Lord until he comes and rains down righteousness on you. Because here's the deal. Whenever he walks over to the field that hasn't been cultivated in years, sometimes they let it go 5 years before they do anything to it. And he walks over to the field. People that are walking by are like, what's this farmer doing? Walking over to the grazing pasture of the cattle. And he's sitting there and he's looking off in the distance and he's sizing up a row. This is where I'm going to put this row. And he puts a marker down. And he says, I'm sizing up this row, so I'm going to put a marker down right here. And I'm going to see what's going. And everybody looking is going, what is he doing over here? This is where the favor is. This is where the progress is. This is where he is moving. Apparently, he doesn't know what he's doing. But the farmer says, I know what people can't see. I know what's been going on by design. I know that everything that has happened on the top, that everybody has scoffed at, I know what everybody has said is a bad thing. I have been making it turn to good, because you will see momentarily the bad things that have happened to this part, to this person, to this ministry, to this person who's been written off by every single person that once championed them. I will show you that the things that have been terrorizing the surface of this soil, I will cause it to show the blackest soil that you've ever seen, rich in nutrients, something that you cannot imagine. And he walks over to the field, doesn't care what the people behind him are saying. And he sizes up the row. He says, I'm going to put a row right here, and I'm going to plant this. I'm going to put a row right here, and I'm going to plant this. And then the next day he walks over, and he's smiling. He says, it's time to break up the fallow ground and seek the Lord. And he walks up, and he gets the oxen, yokes them up. Finally, he straps himself in and puts the blade in the ground. To the chagrin of everybody who would say that there's nothing there, cracks open that fallow ground and begins to shoo that team of oxen over, showing all of the black, all of the rich that has been just churning underneath and waiting. My thing to you to say is this: if you've been waiting, if you felt the pressure, you know that he said this thing to you. You know that the man of God spoke to you. You know that the woman of God spoke to you. You know that the pastor told you this. You know that in secret, he spoke this to you. Your parents prayed it over you. Your grandparents prayed it over you years ago, but it hasn't materialized. Today, I'm telling you this. I don't know how it looks. I don't know why it looks. All I know is that he gave me a message to say, and there's going to be power behind it, because whenever we obey, there's power. That's all I've learned in the last few years, is that when you obey, there's power. He says it's time to break open the fallow ground. It's time to call. If you're in a place where you feel like nothing is going on that should be going on, I don't know what the window of time looks like. All I know is that now is now. He said, break open your fallow ground, for it's time to seek the Lord until he comes and rains down righteousness on you. So I'd encourage you this. If there's something that's been building up in you, a word that was spoken over you, a call that was placed on your life, if there's a family member that would have been written off, now's the time to call him. Now's not the time to bail. Not that bailing's a bad thing. I mean, who wouldn't pull the cord and let the chute come up whenever they're plummeting into the ground? Who wouldn't? But now's the time to call. And when you do, you're going to watch as he breaks open your fallow ground. And everybody will see what it is that has been under the surface that only you have seen, only you have contended for. And your private battle is going to manifest here real shortly as a public breakthrough.